Welcome to the Eventing Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Eventing Podcast. I'm Nicole Brown and it's a very, very special podcast this time because we are focusing on the next rider in the Eventing Podcast Locker Room Talk series, and I'm delighted to welcome a man who is a former world Olympic champion, more finishing on his dressage score, or FODs as Sam likes to call them, at badminton than any other rider. Hello, Blyth Tait.
Hello, Nicole. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Yep, very good. Thank you.
Jolly good. Now we've battled the internet and Mac and Google and all of that to get you on.
Yeah, and I'm amazed that I'm actually on with my technical skills.
Technical prowess. Well, we got there with a little help from a man who I'm not taking any responsibility for. Hello, Sam Watson.
Hello, Nicole Brown. Hello, Blythe. This is quite an honour. This is quite an honour to be on the show.
Sam, are you Blythe's number one fan?
Well, I have to say that I kind of grew up in a generation when you're sort of told who the greats of the sport are. And, you know, I was told Lucinda Green was great and Sir Mark Todd was great and Blyth Tait was great. But it wasn't until I've had the pleasure of watching this man ride, and I can see from my own eyes that he's a magician on a horse.
Too much, Sam. Too much.
Yeah, it probably is.
Laying it on quite thick.
No, but I think starting Equi-Ratings as well and doing the analysis, I think we've all, rightly so, been really carried away with what Michael Young has done in the sport in the last few years. When we spotted that basically Michael Young is the reigning world and Olympic champion and the only other person who has managed in their whole lifetime to be individual gold medalist at a Worlds and Olympics is the man on the show, Blyth Tait. So that's
Did
cool.
you know that, Blythe?
Well, I think so, yeah. I mean, I will certainly know that I won the Olympics and the World Championships, and I was holding them concurrently. But yes, I also was aware that Michael had, and I didn't know if anyone else had, so that part's news.
It's pretty good news, though, because I must admit, I didn't know that little snippet until Sam pointed it out earlier. As he said, it's quite easy to forget back a few years ago.
Well, it's quite a while ago, Nicole.
Well, it is now the time that I say I was born in 1990.
Oh, well, that was the year I won the first World Championship.
There we go.
And actually, I could be wrong, but I think that Bruce Davidson and myself are the only ones to have won the World Championships twice individually.
Yeah.
So I'm sharing my titles with others.
Yeah, Brucey won it in 74, 78. Yeah, if one nation dominated the 90s, it was New Zealand. Blythe won the World Games in 1990 and 1998, and Vaughan Jeffries won in 1994. But if one man dominated the 90s, I think it was you, Blythe. I mean, looking at Burleys and Worlds and Olympics and the team performances as well as the individuals, must have been pretty cool to be winning 4 stars and 4-star championships was sort of just happening quite regularly.
No, of course it is. But I think probably, well, certainly at that time for me, I had 3 very good horses. And I think when you have strength and horsepower, I think you just are full of confidence and you just go into every event as competitive as you can because, you know, you've got another horse to ride at the next 4-star. And so I really think it makes a huge difference when you've got a couple of horses at that level at the same time.
Was Messiah your 1990 horse?
He was my 1990 horse, yes, and he went on to the Olympics at Barcelona and was individual bronze medalist there as well. But he was an older horse when I brought him up, so he didn't 4 or 5 years, and then he went home. And then the next one that I had, Delta and Ricochet, and then along came Ready Teddy.
I mean, those are all the names looking through your badminton records. When was your first badminton, Blythe?
It was in 1990, the same year as the World Championships in Stockholm. So I came up from New Zealand for my very first trip in the autumn of the year before, 89, wintered the horse over so that he would be well acclimatised and ready to do the championship year. So it was in 1990.
How was that coming over from New Zealand to base yourself at an entirely new country? Did you just bring the one horse? Was it tough? Is it very different over here to over there back then?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, New Zealand's a very small country and we don't have any international competition because travel is too difficult. So, you know, it was a big glitzy and glamorous stage that I had never encountered before. I'd never ever stepped foot on at badminton, so I hadn't been there as a spectator or anything like that. I had done a 3-day event in actual Spain in 1989, a 3-star, and I'd finished second there. So I went in feeling I was ready, and I had a good result. So yeah, I think probably I was naive, to be honest, at the time, so unexposed to the level that I was about to encounter, but I had enormous faith in Messiah. He was an absolute cross-country machine. He was a real athlete. So, you know, I wasn't overwhelmed by the cross country when I saw it. I thought that it was very jumpable for him.
It's quite a thing to go to badminton and to have that confidence. That's good. I mean,
I think I was naive because I go to badminton now and I'm twice as nervous, to be honest.
it takes courage. And Lucinda Green, when she started badminton, she just hit the ground running completely and had loads of really good results quite quickly. And you're very brave when you're young.
There's no doubt about it.
And it
Not
does
quite
help.
So brave when you get older.
Well, you start to think about it after a while, don't you? And you inevitably get a few experiences. You know, you have to hit the deck every now and then. It's kind of part of the sport. And I suppose you start to think about it more. But
yeah, it's also the confidence you have in the horse that you're riding. I mean, I could turn up at the start line sometimes at a 4-star and I feel, fully confident, and actually sometimes wish the course might be a little bit more difficult. And then I go to a pre-novice competition the next weekend and I'm popping my pants because that particular horse isn't quite ready for that particular competition. So it's not really about being brave, it's about being confident and trusting in your preparation.
How many horses would you have had then? Would you have been riding as many horses as you do now?
I've never had a large string. I've probably about half a dozen horses is the most I've ever had on the go at any one time. I had a really good run in the World Rider Rankings one period. I'm not quite sure what years it was, but I managed to top the Land Rover World Rankings, they were called in those days. They were calculated different, but I managed to do that with just 3 horses. I didn't have, 10 horses or 12 horses, but as I said, they were all at 4-star level and they were all competitive at that level. So I haven't ever been one to have a big stable, and I've got 4 in my yard at the moment.
I don't know how some of the guys do it. I think it's a huge achievement that Oliver Townend can do. He did 96 internationals last year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I mean, everybody operates on different bases, and he likes to be obviously very busy, but I prefer to actually, as you said, sort of have a bit more of a relationship with the horses, try and get the best out of fewer numbers.
One of the things I was going to ask you, Blyth, was, am I right in saying that in Atlanta in 1996, you actually went with the 2 horses, Ready Teddy and Chesterfield? Just explain how that was working, because in those days you rode on a team with 1 horse and then you could take another and compete individually.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at the time, the IOC wouldn't give 2 medals for 1 performance, and so they split the competitions into 2. So there was an individual competition and a team competition. And at that stage, my leading horse actually was Chesterfield, and so he was put in the team. My second horse was Ready Teddy. He was only an 8-year-old, so he was allowed to run in the individual. So they did it again the following Olympics in Sydney, and then they went to the format where you show jump twice, so that there's the second effort for the second medal.
And that makes the difference going in for the individual medal. Do you prefer that method, or did you quite like the option of making it 2 different competitions?
Well, as a rider with 2 horses at that level, it was much
it was great.
2 opportunities to medal. But I think it's a format that's working now, because I guess if you split the field, you're diluting both competitions, whereas keeping it as one competition, you've got all the best people competing against each other. So yeah, I think probably it's a better system now, although I'm not sure about the 3 people per nation.
No, the sport as a whole has changed enormously over the last sort of 25 years. Is it almost unrecognisable from where it was, or can you still sort of keep the foundations of it?
No, I don't think the actual demands of the sport or the tests of the sport has changed terribly much. Obviously the formats and the depth of competitors and stuff have, but probably the cross country has changed in the fact that it's a little more technical, a little less physically demanding than it was before. No, it hasn't changed enormously.
What about in terms of surrounding of the sports? Now it's all about social media and sponsors and everything like that. Has that become more important as a rider?
A sign of the times. I mean, it can be a big distraction to some, but it enables riders to promote themselves a lot more. Certainly draws everyone much closer, especially live streaming and things like that. I can remember back in the day when they invented the fax machine. And I could go into the press tent at the end of the day and fax the results back to my parents in New Zealand, because up until then they had to wait until I rang them to know what was going on. And nowadays, when you're falling off before you can get back to the lorry, they're on the phone.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting, actually. I mean, Andrew Nicholson wouldn't be, I don't think he's got any social media stuff.
Nicholson on Twitter, that old hashtag.
I think I started that, Nicole.
Oh, did you?
That's my claim to fame.
I'm pretty sure it's not controlled by Andrew.
No, it's definitely not. I think I started it in the same sentence. I said getting jiggy with Wiggy was one of my other hashtags, but I can't believe I've said that one on air as well.
I wouldn't claim that one, Sam.
No, I won't. I'll brush over that. That was someone else. Blyth, your top horses, how did they come about? Do you rely on owners and things like that? And you've had some special ones. I've
owned portions of some of my horses, but I've been very lucky to have had really good owners, and I've put together some really successful syndicate, which has, obviously enabled me. It's difficult to bring a horse from New Zealand. It's very expensive. You take a big calculated risk. I first of all had Messiah, and the next move I made was bringing some young horses over alongside him, but I decided that was going to be too long term, so I sold those, and with those proceeds went back and bought Ricochet, an intermediate horse at the time. But again, he had a syndicate of owners, and then Delta came to me because Joe Shepherd, who had brought her over to the UK herself and competed her at Bramham, needed to sell her. She couldn't afford to stay and to campaign her, and so I put together a syndicate of which Joe remained a shareholder actually, and bought her from Joe. And then actually Ready Teddy was the one horse that wasn't syndicated. He was owned by my father, and he came about him by being at a pony club one day event, and he was doing the timekeeping, and he noticed him. He was a little thoroughbred horse, and my father's a racing man. He was having a beer with the owners of the horse at the end of the day, and said, what a nice little horse he was, and they said they had to sell him because Cherie, who rode him, was coming on her OE for a year. So he sort of asked how much they wanted for him, and it was very little. Anyway, he beat him down to about half that again, and rang me to say he'd bought a little horse. He was only a 6-year-old, and at the time it was twice as expensive to fly a horse over here as it was to ship them on a boat. So Ready Teddy came on a boat, which took a month, and yeah, he arrived up in about July or something like that, and I just did a little bit with him, and then he started competing next year as a 7-year-old.
So what year did he come over on the boat?
Well, as a 6-year-old, and then he started his eventing career as a 7-year-old and went to the Olympics as an 8-year-old.
My word.
Wow.
Not bad for a pony that your dad spotted at a little event.
Exactly.
And then the horse went on to win an Olympic gold medal, was world champion, and won Burghley.
It was very unexpected. Actually, the only reason why he qualified for Atlanta and caught the selector's eye was because they fell off aspiring at Badminton in May. So he was unqualified for the Olympics. He was my main horse. Well, actually, Chesterfield was there as well. But anyway, I took Aspiring down to Bretoni in Rome because it was the very last qualifier for that Olympic. So it was only a few weeks after Badminton, and I took Ready Teddy down just because it was a long way. So I'd have 2 horses to compete down there. So it was Ready Teddy's first 3-star, and he won it by some margin. And so the selectors started to say, well, can't that horse go? Actually, I was only reserved because he was a young horse. I didn't mind taking him out to Atlanta with prospect of not running, but unfortunately for Mark, his horse went lame on the gallop, pulled a muscle, and so Ready Teddy came in at the 11th hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And was really the super sub.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
Turned out.
To do that as an 8-year-old, I mean, it's amazing how history kind of repeats itself because, again, I mean, we've made the comparison to your Olympic and world medals and how Michael has done that now, and Michael had won the Europeans with an 8-year-old that, again, it felt like at the time, like, God, that's something that's incredible, but you just have to go back in time, and every athlete peaks and troughs and has their kind of their era.
Quite careful with Ted as well. After Atlanta, he didn't run again that year, and he only did a 3-star in the spring of the following year. He went to Punchestown because I was conscious of the fact that he had really lacked mileage, and then he went on to Burghley after that. So it was a while before he got to Badminton.
And what age was he when he did his last 4-star, Blyth? Because
16. He went to 3 Olympic Games.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blimey. I must admit, I can't think of another horse that's been to 3 Olympic Games.
No, I wouldn't know if there had been either. I've got progressively worse too.
Well, to be fair, you did win gold at the first one.
That's true.
It's hard to improve on that. I want to give the listener, because some of the names we've mentioned in the 90s, we talked about your badminton record, Blythe, which is actually an event that you haven't won, but you've come very close to it. But you do have a record at badminton, which is that you finished on your dressage score on 5 occasions. And we love that in Equi Ratings because, to be honest, when you look at all the top events, it's a very select club of people that actually manage to finish on their dressage score. And we were talking about it because, again, Blyth Tait Sam and Michael are the only people to have done it at an Olympic Games, and they've managed to do it twice. And so that got us looking at other events. And it's a pretty elite club, and you're top of the table at badminton. Delta did it twice, did it in 93 and 94. Ricochet did it in 93 as well. So again, you're one of 3 people who's done it twice at badminton in the same year. Lucinda Green being the other and Andrew Hoy being another. So there's another little accolade. We'll have to write all these down for you. We'll have to get plaques made for you or something, Blythe, with all your records on it.
That would be nice. I didn't realise that until you guys told me, but I'm a little annoyed with myself because I think also with Messiah, I might have been 0.4 or 0.8 over the time.
Yeah, there's been some really
and then last
close
year
calls.
with Being Necessity, he jumped a double clear, but I had a couple of time faults because I got held for 10 minutes or so. Couldn't restart my watch and sort of various reasons, but I could have, with a bit of luck, I might have been able to get another one there. But anyway, 5 is something to be proud of.
Yeah, but Blythe,
there's still time, Blythe. There's still time.
Exactly. You're still going. Are you entering anyone for this year? Of course you are.
Yeah, I'm hoping to take Being Necessity there. All going well. If we have a nice spring preparation.
He's pretty experienced at 4-star now, isn't he?
He's done 3. He's done Poe, badminton, and Burley. He's a horse that I never ever thought would be a championship horse, but he keeps surprising me, and he's jumped clear at all 3 cross country, and he's had 70% in the dressage at 1, and he's jumped clear show jumping at badminton. I had 1 down at Burley, so he's coming together. I've just got to get all 3 phases, right on the same day now, or the same weekend.
He did an excellent dressage at Burley last year, didn't he?
He's not a flashy mover. He's not a flashy jumper, but he's a real trier, and he's very trainable.
That's what you want in an eventer, really, isn't it? It's just got to be on side. I mean, the flash helps, though, I suppose.
Yeah, of course it helps, but he has got a heart of gold. He's got a great temperament. I've just been having some lessons today with him, and I think he's improved again. He's very forward, and he feels a lot more supple than he used to. So, fingers crossed.
Oh, one to watch. I think the first time I really sat up and, I remember just kind of walking around, just watching you riding around Mill Street 2 years ago. You came over with a heap of horses. But, you were producing the quickest times on everything at all the levels. Again, I think I'd have to look back, but I think you're finishing on your dressage score pretty much on everything then as well. And I was thinking, jeepers, I know I was told he was good, but anyway, you've still got it, is what I'm trying to say. Blythe, talk to us about the decision to retire and then come out of retirement and that.
Yeah, I think it was the right time for me to retire when I did. I felt that I was sort of had achieved, plenty, and I felt I was just sort of going around a little bit in circles. And I sort of felt, I've still got life left in me to do something else. So I moved back to New Zealand, and I was breeding race horses, black horses, and prepping them for the yearling sales, selling them. And that went very well as far as results. So was lucky enough to breed a multiple Group 1 winner, but financially it was difficult without having large numbers and being really, really established. So I sort of just reviewed the situation, and I think I was missing the challenge of it, the excitement of it, but more than that, I think I was missing the people. And I was actually in New Zealand, and it was during the day, and I was handling colts or something, and a gang of riders rang from Buccalo, and they were at one of the famous parties, and they were having a very good time.
So many good decisions have been made at Buccalo, haven't they?
Yeah. They said, you should come back, and I thought, well, what's preventing me really? I thought, I'll just get a horse and I'll come back and see how it goes, and that was as far as I planned. I brought a horse over, a little thoroughbred horse that unfortunately we didn't realise at the time that I bought him, but he suffered from kissing spine, and so I wasn't able to get any kind of a performance out of him. Once I'd got a bit of a taste for it again, I decided, I might just try and get a couple more horses going, get them together and see what happens. So that's as far as I've planned.
Have you even thought about maybe staying around for Tokyo?
I thought of retiring again.
No, no.
We would never.
I don't know, to be honest, because reducing it to 3 riders actually does make it tough. If you set yourself such a goal that it's a tough goal to achieve. At the moment, I just really want to have a couple of nice horses doing really, really well at 4-star, and if I can achieve that, I can start thinking about Tokyo. But definitely got an eye on WEG for next year, but of course that's going to depend on how this year goes.
And you've got fingers in other pies, haven't you, so to speak, because you do a bit of course designing as well and done some training and been involved in teams from that perspective. So you've got other options that you can explore and that you obviously enjoy getting involved in.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, all through my career, I've done a bit of teaching, and I don't mind doing it, and it's quite fun, and you learn new things, and it's great to see people progress. But I've literally just started with the course designing. I've done it for 1 year. Been very fortunate to get into a very nice event in Northumberland called Virgin. Helped a lot by David Evans, who is the upper level course designer there. And so I've just upgraded for this year. So I'm hoping to progress towards doing some novice tracks. And I did some while I was down in New Zealand this year, and I designed up to intermediate level down there. And it went pretty well, I think. Didn't have too many complaints and didn't have any tears and tantrums. So, yeah.
Does it make you look at it from a different perspective?
Oh, totally. I mean, again, you never stop learning. Up at Virgin, I've ridden 3 and 4-star levels, for 30 years nearly. And David made me do what we call footprinting, where you walk round the course the day after the competition and look where all the horses have landed and where they've taken off. And I mean, I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't have seen it with my own eyes, but they land at different distances over different types of fences and, different, whether they're going uphill or whatever. And, I've walked courses forever as a rider, but to sort of understand how the general rider goes or how the majority goes, it's a whole new learning curve for me. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's an area of the sport that I hope, be influential in, and even when I go back to New Zealand, when I do retire again, it'll give me an opportunity to keep travelling and stay involved in the international circuit, hopefully.
Oh yeah, we definitely need that. I mean, you look at the guys designing 4-star tracks now, and I think it helps when people have ridden. But it's fascinating listening to that about the footprints and things like that. I'd say it's pretty scary where some people take off from, and there's quite
I'm a long way from 4-star at this stage, but it might be something to aim towards in the future.
Watch this space.
If you could, while you're still on a horse, you're talking about WEG next year, what would be the one event or the one place that, if you could pull out the best result that you're going to produce between now and retirement number 2, where would you want it to be?
Look, anyone would do.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I could continue through to the World Games, it would be sensational to be able to do a medal performance there. I haven't won badminton. I've been second 3 times, so that's a big event missing from my CV. I've been lucky enough to win Burley in Kentucky, the World Games and the Olympics. So, to have badminton would be a dream come true as well. But I mean, when you look at the number of badminton winners, or you look at the number of 4-star winners, there's only a handful every decade. So yeah. I just think I've just got to forget about those sort of things, concentrate on producing my best and hope it's good enough.
Do you want to hear the list to give you some motivation of 4-star winners and how many 4-stars they've won? So it's obviously all the 4-stars that are current at the moment, and then the Olympics and the World Championships, which are actually not 4-stars.
I'm sure you're itching to tell me, Sam.
Yeah, I've got to tell you anyway, because you're on it. You're quite... So William Fox Pitt is top with 14. Wow. And Mark Todd is second on 11. So they're the only 2 to get to double figures. Then we've got 3 people on 9. We've got Michael Young is on 9. I expect he's going to add to it. Lucinda Green and Ginny Leng are both on 9. And then we've got 2 Kiwis. We've got Andrew on 8 and you on 6. But as I say,
there you go.
Quite Kiwi dominated, actually. We've got, in the top 7, we've got 3 Kiwis, 3 Brits and 1 German.
I was quite sort of intrigued earlier. I was on the phone to Derm before this podcast, who, by the way, Blyth, is absolutely gutted that he got held up today and hasn't been able to make this recording because he loves you so much. He won't mind me saying that. But he told me a little fact that Kiwis are the only nation to have won every 4-star.
Is that
in the
right?
world.
Is that right?
The Germans are just missing Adelaide, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's possibility that there might be a second American 4-star soon too, isn't there? So that'll be one that we'll all have to chase.
Yeah.
You'll all be setting your sights on it to keep that one going.
Yeah.
Stay going, Blythe. Go on. There's another 4 years in you for sure.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. Hopefully this year.
Tell us a little bit about the string that you've got at the moment, because we've talked about Bare Necessity a little bit, who'll be going to badminton, but you've only got 4 horses, so you must be pretty happy with that core team.
Well, we'll see. I've got, Bare Necessity's the most established, and then I've got 2 3-star horses that I brought over from New Zealand. They're both out of thoroughbred mares, but they're by jumping sires, so they've got some European blood in them. One is called Leo Distinction. They're both 11 now, and he did Buccalo last year on a very shaky preparation, to be honest. So I'd like him to establish this year. I think he's definitely a 4-star horse. He's got scope to burn, very bold, very rangy type horse. If he went well in his 3-star this spring, he might look at something like Poe at the end of the year. And then the other horse is a horse called Darius, who has also done 1 3-star. He did Senior, and he'll do a 3-star in the spring as well. He's very different to that horse, to the other horse. He's very polite, very kind, very sweet. Got a good track record, but they have to make the next step up. And then I have a horse called Dasset Courage, which I've always rated, but he's had a year off with injury, so he's coming back steadily, and I was hoping that he might be a suitable horse to chase the Event Rider Master Series with, but we'll see.
Blythe, you only need 6 results to count towards your FUI world ranking, so I reckon you got enough of a string to get back into the top 10 in the world.
Oh, well, we'll keep trying.
That's the goal. All right, I'm going to lay that one down for you.
Well, I was 2000th at one stage, so I'm getting up there.
Am I right in saying that you were 51st last year?
I'm 51st at the moment, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got as high as 20-something one stage, but I didn't. Anyway, it's to work on. Top 10 is the goal.
There we go. Badminton, another finish on your dressage score. Sorted.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Get to number 6. Get
Done.
the others.
Done. We've already decided some of the medalists for Tokyo 2020.
Have you just?
Yes.
Now, don't forget.
Probably won't happen.
To do my team for this competition you're running.
Podcast picks.
Yeah.
Yes. So, podcast picks, for anybody that doesn't know, is basically it's open to anybody, and you pick any 5 horses. It can be any horse, and then we take the best 15 international results from any event in the 2017 season, and each performance is rated, and I'll get Sam to explain that in a minute because he'll explain it better than me, but each performance is rated, and then the horse with the most points obviously builds towards your 15. You get your total, and then the person or the team that has the most points wins. We've all picked ours, and we thought it'd be fun for you to give us yours. Do you want Sam to explain the rating system quickly first?
Well, I'm presuming that 4-star performances beat a 2-star performance.
Yeah,
very much so, yes.
Yeah. So it's like
and do
any points.
CCIs carry more points than CICs?
They do.
They do.
They do.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm happy with my team.
Go for it.
Excellent. Go for it. Horse number 1.
Okay, horse number 1 is Escada, Ingrid Klipka.
That's a very,
nice.
very popular mare on the on this podcast. Jenny Autry and Dermot Byrne are big fans. So she's a Le Moulin winner, already a 4-star winner. Very, very smart mare. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely adore the mare, and obviously Ingrid's very competitive. The mare had a tiny bit of time off last year, so hopefully she'll be up and ready to run plenty this year for me.
Excellent. Okay. I think, did Ingrid say she's going to take her to badminton?
I'm not sure. Did she?
I could have totally made that up, but she'll obviously finish second to you.
Obviously.
Obviously.
I think Halebob's going to badminton. I'm not sure, Scott.
Okay.
Well, the European Championships will count towards this.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Big points as well.
Okay,
Horse
so my
number 2.
second horse is an up-and-coming one, so I'm going for Jet Set, Andrew Nicholson.
Good
Oh,
choice.
like it.
He's in my team as well, Blythe.
Yeah, a real proper little jumper, isn't he? And he's a fast horse, and he may not necessarily be a big one-day winner because he's a bit sharp, but he certainly pulls out the performances at the 3 days. So I'm hopeful that he'll step up to the 4-star level nicely this year.
Jockey's not bad either, to be fair.
No, exactly.
Yeah, he's all right.
And then my next one is a French horse, Upsilon.
Oh, love Upsilon.
Also in my team. Blythe, you're
Really?
copying me, haven't you?
Have you picked those three?
No, not three. Two of them. I have Horseware Hail Bob, Jet Set, Upsilon. I can't remember my other two now. I'll think of.
I can't remember
I've got
now.
Fisher Arcana.
My fourth choice is Arctic Soul.
Oh, yes, like it.
Yep,
Big fan of Spike.
good. And my last one is the Speedy Classic Moe.
Wow, that is a good team.
That's a strong team.
Well, they're all upper level horses. But I think they're all proper 3-day horses. Upsilon was very capable of winning CICs as well.
And you'd get on FEI points, I think it's 41 points for a CIC 3-star and 111 for a 4-star. There's not quite that gap in the rating
Well, that's
system.
probably good.
Yeah, it takes into account dressage, performance, cross-country difficulty, speed. You know, it's more like a time form rating that you have in racing.
And what will my prize be?
The glory.
Right.
Oh,
Right. You've been in eventing long enough to be disappointed by the prizes.
true.
Glory of being the podcast picks champion of
Okay.
2017.
So nobody else is allowed to pick that team, right?
No, so how it's worked is somebody could pick that team, but
Yeah.
actually we've had loads of teams in already and nobody's even picked 4 of the same
Oh,
horses.
really? Oh, well.
They've been
I'm
totally
happy
different.
I'm happy to share.
No, I think you've got a really, really good team there.
We should actually
Well,
do that, shouldn't we,
fingers crossed.
Nicole? If somebody picks a carbon copy team as somebody else, we should just tell them to change one.
Yes, change a
We
horse,
might do
and
that.
they snooze, they lose.
It's
Yeah,
called
They'd have got it in
they should have
earlier.
got them first.
it's called the Blythe
Although-
rule.
I feel like, Sam, you've been really well behaved on this podcast.
I have, because I think it would be a downward spiral. I think if I misbehave, Blythe would only be worse. You know,
Exactly.
I've seen him around the lorry park enough times to know that I think we both need to stay
All
on
I
a
can say
leash.
is I'm glad that this is as a audio podcast and not visual.
Well, yeah, I don't know if we should
What'll be
talk about what you said when we first came on the podcast.
I was only trying to get you excited, Nicole.
Well, the say no more, say no more. There was, yes, I don't think we
Can a
really need to
bachelor
go
not
there.
be comfortable in his own home? I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
There was an insinuation that it was a good job we couldn't see you because you may or may not be wearing.
I have had a shower, but I am clothed.
Good. Excellent. Good to know.
And on that high point,
Yeah.
On that note, Blythe, thank you so much for talking to us. We've loved hearing all about your journey and
pleasure.
we can't wait to see where it goes because
Yeah.
it will carry on.
Well-
And the next time you decide to retire to New Zealand, somebody will go to Buccleuch, ring you up and get you back again.
Yeah, I might struggle to physically come back next time, but we'll see.
Blythe, thank you very much. But I also want to say to any of the listeners who, a bit like me, who know who the big names are, but maybe didn't know the exact details of what have happened. What's happened. I think Equiratings will try and reel back the years a bit for people as well. So stay in tune to our social media and all that sort of stuff.
That's great.
But have a look back at, it's all on Wikipedia and places like that. And Burley, actually, BDWP have some of the Burley results as well. But Blythe, you were particularly that decade, I would say the 90s. It was incredible what you achieved. And I know we have our current heroes now, and you're still a hero for me to watch riding. Class is clearly permanent. No, that was awesome. And thank you for coming on the show and talking about
That's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very, very much, Blythe. And we'll be back with you very shortly on the Eventing Podcast. Thanks for listening. And if you've missed any of the shows, you can catch up again online. Just go to the website eventingpodcast.com or follow us on iTunes.
Eventingpodcast.com